I don't know where the other one stopped, so I'm going to talk again. Like if so, each one of these. So if you come down here, when I click the data view, right, you see right here that, and again, I apologize that I have a part two. I try to go through this as quickly as possible, but I want to make sure you guys get this. So each one of these rows, right, represents an individual person who was captured in this data set, right? So for example, let's stick with person number one, right? For year 2015, this is the sample serial number. This is their serial numbers in the Census Bureau. This is the weight that's added to their household. This is the type of household. And sorry to jump over. This is the type of household, and it's a married couple household. You have female-headed households, male-headed householder, married couple, family household, female household, no husband present. There's all these categories that fall into this. So that determines household type. Here is the cluster in which they're in. That's the IPUMS cluster. This is the state. The person is in Alabama. The county. We don't have the county's number, but I'll show you where you can get the actual identifier of the county if that's what you want. The density number, here is the metropolitan area. They are in a metropolitan area. Let me just see what this specifically states. And they're in a central city, city status indeterminable, right? So they're in a mixed place. So they're, now why do they do that? Why do they have why would you have that indeterminable? Well, because you don't want to be able to fully identify the person correct that quickly, right? There's a lot of information in here about the person, and if you can identify specifically where they are, if they're in a small area with, and you can say, oh, they live in the central city, so now you can be, much more specifics, right? Here's the metropolitan area that they live. They live in Mobile, Alabama. The city is not identified, and again, not in all cases you'll get cities identified, because then you'll know specifically where people actually are. In those cases, right, the city population is going to be 0. Let me scroll down to, one where they might have a person identified in a city. Sorry, it's a lot of data, so just have to bear with me. Actually, if I do it that way, I can just do frequency. Wait. I have split from before. No. Sorry. These things, I try not to do too many runs while I'm showing you this because they tend to overwhelm this. I'm going to pause, and it opens it up in an output window. I apologize I had to pause because it takes a few seconds, like 30 seconds, because it's so much data. When I give you guys this data set or make it available for you, it should be pretty quick. But basically, right here, the cities: Akron, Ohio; Albany, New York; Alexandria, Virginia; Allentown, Pennsylvania, right? These are like actual cities. And now, if you have all the information about the individual, you can then very quickly identify who this person was if you knew that they lived in this specific city, right? The ownership, well, they rent. They're not in a group quarters, right? Household income, $52,450. Are they getting food stamps? Yes. Number of families in the household, 2. Family size, 3. This person represents the head of the household. They're male, 56 years old, married, African American, not Hispanic, right? Birthplace, Alabama. No ancestry reported, and speak English. Yes, speaks English. Here's some other great 11th grade education. Not currently enrolled in school. They're self-employed. Their jobs were they're clergy. Right, so chances are they're a minister, and so that's the information that you can have. I think that if we look down here for 2015, notice that the serials here is because these 4 individuals are in the same household. So if we follow these 4 individuals across, these are 4 people that are in the same household. So notice that, their numbers all the way through here, right, are exactly the same, right? Household income, because they're all in the same household, 2 families. Now, where it changes, of course, is once you get to person. So here's the person numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The person weight, don't worry about that right now. So family size 3, and then one family member out here. So basically what we have here is a head of household, their spouse, a grandchild, and what they call the housemate. So someone who is divorced, probably a renter living in the house. That might be the case in that situation right there. You can see, right, 1 year of college. You can see that the child, go to age. I know I'm moving around a lot, just don't panic, right? 8 years old, so they have an 8-year-old child with them, right? And it's their grandchild. They're taking care of their grandchild. So this is a, husband and wife with a grandchild, and then someone who's a housemate who's also, helping with paying in the rent. And we know it's rent because we saw before that they were paying rent. And as you scroll down, right, you can see, much more, detailed information. They're in second grade, they're grade 11, one more year of college, one more year of college for this person, not in the labor force. This guy worked as a truck delivery person. This was self-employed. This one works for a wage, so they're a salaried employee or wage employee. They worked in lumber, right? Then trucker in the lumber industry, right? They work full-time. This is their income. As clergy, he makes $17,450. This is their, this is the total income, family total income right here. This is the actual individual income. He only makes $3,450. She makes $1,400. This guy's a truck driver, makes $35,000 a year. So, this is what the variables are in here. Now, for each person, right, these things are very different, and that's what a variable is. A variable is, right, those categories where, from group to group or person to person. If I was looking at households, right, this would form one household, and then this next person right here would form a different household, right? This next person right here forms a different household. These next group right here forms another household. See, they all match the household, right? Their numbers tend to be the same across these households, and this is how you would identify. So I would be doing an analysis by household. This is what I would be using, like household weights. Don't worry about how, what, where, or how now, but just understand that that's how I'd be using it. So my point is more about the variables. So here are the individual, so each one of these represents an individual. Each one of these columns represents the actual variable, right? And the variable are the characteristics that change from person to person. In this case, all these individuals share the same characteristics in the state that they live in. What state? Alabama, right? But not everybody in this data set comes from Alabama, right? So you're going to have individuals that come from other parts of the state. So here is Florida, right? So the individuals here all now, it changes, right? The variable of state where you live changes based on where you live. So if you live in Florida, it's Florida. If you live in Alabama, it was Alabama. So understand that that's when we're talking about variables. In your reading, that stuff that the next step below this one, it talks about different types of variables. And the variables have different types. There are different properties of variables. There are nominal variables, there are interval variables, there are ratios, there are ordinal level variables. And this is what I'm going to be introducing you guys to, is to understanding the distinction between nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now, the reality is I'm going to truncate this even further and just say, I want you to be responsible for understanding what a nominal level variable is, and then what an interval level ratio is, variable is, and then what I'm going to have you do is take the ordinal level variables and decide whether you're going to treat them as nominal or whether you're going to treat them as interval. The ratio you will treat as interval. Why? Because it'll make your lives easier. As long as you know what these things are, but then understand that they're different, it's important. And the difference between nominal and interval is extremely important with what type of analysis you can do statistically, which is why it's important to understand the variable and the type of variable or the mode of the variable.